Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome to our film breakdown of the Amistad captives. I'm Siraj, and with help from my two other peers, Matt and Inyo, we gathered the information and images that I will be presenting. Today, in our breakdown, we will be doing a deep dive on the 1997 movie Amistad, directed by Steven Spielberg. The film has received much scrutiny over the years, many arguing that this film is too graphic in its depiction of slavery. However, others argue that the film does an amazing job of depicting the brutality of the slave trade and the severity of it. The 1997 Amistad movie is a historical film based on the real-life events of the Mende slave mutiny. The ship Amistad, carrying the slaves, is on its way from Cuba to the US. During travel, one of the main protagonists, Joseph Senkei, who was a tribal leader in Africa, leads a mutiny and takes over the ship. After the mutiny, the Mende people continue to sail to the US, hoping to get some assistance. However, upon their arrival, they are arrested and imprisoned as slaves. Unfortunately, the Mende slaves do not speak any English, and their fate seems to be sealed. But an abolitionist lawyer decides to take their case, which takes it all the way up to the Supreme Court, where John Quincy Adams makes a plea for release. In the Amistad film, there are many characters that all play key roles. However, the key players that we will discuss will be James Covey, Theodore Judson, Robert Baldwin, Sinkey, and John Adams. With these characters, we will be exploring the question, did the creative liberties and directorial decisions made in Amistad strengthen or weaken the movie's impact? We argue that in the film, the creative liberties and directorial decisions do indeed strengthen the movie's impact. Firstly, let's discuss the choice to include the character Theodore Judson, who was a directorial decision and is totally fictional. This article by Richard Newman talks about the fictionality of Judson and the controversy that came with it. In the actual historical context, there was no character known as Judson, and was made up for the film. Theodore Judson represents the African American abolitionist movement, and provides a perspective from within the United States that aligns with the film's themes of freedom, justice, and human rights. His character allows the filmmakers to explore the complexities of race, identity, and activism in the 19th century. Stuart Hall, in his article on representation and the media, comments on such an addition. Hall argues that representation is not merely a reflection or distortion of reality, but is constitutive of meaning itself. He suggests that the meaning of an event or image is not fixed, but depends on how it is represented and interpreted within a specific cultural context. This idea is relevant to understanding the significance of Jodson's character, as his presence in the film is not simply about having a black actor on screen, but about shaping the meaning and narrative surrounding the African American experience and the abolitionist movement. Hall also emphasizes the importance of media giving the appropriate representation of people. Judson is meant to acknowledge the contribution of African American abolitionists. Another creative decision was to exclude the character Celestino from the film, who was a personal slave and chef of the Spanish slave traders. This article by HistoryNet staff talks about who Celestino was. Celestino played a significant role in the cruelty that befell the Mende captives. Although he was a slave himself, he was of a higher status than the rest, since he personally served the Spanish traders. Historical accounts describe Celestino as being particularly abusive towards the Mende people on board La Amistad. He would mock the captives, taunt them, and even drink water in front of them as they suffered from extreme thirst. The cruel behavior added to the already inhumane conditions the Mende captives were subjected to during their forced journey. He used his position to abuse the other captives and torment them. It was this torment, along with the other actions of the slave traders, that spurred Senkei to incite a rebellion on the Amistad and lead his people in a mutiny. This ties back into Stuart Hall's article on representation in the media. The absence of certain elements in representation can be as meaningful as their presence. In this case, the exclusion of the personal slave serves to reinforce the central theme of white oppression against Africans. The film avoids muddying the waters by introducing a narrative that might be interpreted as Africans oppressing other Africans, which could potentially detract from the main message. Another creative choice was to exclude the character Bana, who was the Mende captives' translator, but they instead kept James Covey and replaced him as the translator. This article by Russell Drum goes in depth about Bana's character and his abusive tendencies. The creative choice to keep James Covey actually ties into the model minority theory presented by Yuka Kawai. Although Kawai applies his theory to Asian Americans, it can be applied to other races as well. In this case, it was to show a comparison between the Mendre prisoners and African abolitionists. In the film, the captives are depicted as less than people, with many design choices, like the clothing and treatment of the Mende captives. Now this is compared to the sophisticated, well-dressed and well-spoken James Covey, who is presented as the ideal minority or the model minority. The clip I'm about to showcase is another creative choice of leaving the subtitles for the Mende slaves as indistinct noises or African language.
Mugbego tiba. Muigbe tiba. Banyama mwe. De regreso. Galapilala. Vaya pretima. Cree que puede hacer el viaje de regreso sin nosotros. Mutiva se ahona. ¿Qué es esto? Mutiva no. Tu culo yabie. Mutiva no. Tu culo yabie. Tu culo yabie. Pide. Bilango ya te. Bipongo ale. Bipongo ha tali heleme. Labie.
Cuidado, cuidado.
Tende diwote. Billy, follow ye me.
Sí. Hacia el sol.
Comprendo.
In this next clip, we can see how the same indistinct language can be used in a significant speech given by Senkei and have such a great impact.
This historic conflagration any more than I did, but we find ourselves here nonetheless by some mysterious mix of circumstances and all the world watching. So, what are we to do? Huh? What did you say?
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Singe, look, I'm being honest with you. Anything less would be disrespectful. I'm telling you, I'm preparing you. I suppose I'm explaining to you. that the task ahead of us is an exceptionally difficult one.
We won't be going in there alone.
Alone, indeed not. No, we have right at our side. We have righteousness at our side. We have Mr. Baldwin over there.
Kenny Baldwin. I met my ancestors. I will call into the past, far back to the beginning of time, and beg them to come and help me at the judgment. I will reach back and draw them into me, and they must come. For at this moment, I am the whole reason they have existed at all.
In Stuart Hall's article, The West and the Rest, he explains how discourses, such as narratives, ideologies, and ways of speaking about certain topics within society, typically originating from the West, and molding how we see the world and establish power structures. Hall emphasizes the impact discourse has on shaping what society perceives as social and political truths. Throughout Amistad, the use of discourse was used to influence opinions and ultimately decide the fate of the Mende people. In the decision-making process, it was taken into account that they did not speak any English and were painted to appear more savage than humane. So to reiterate our question, did the creative liberties and directorial decisions made in Amistad strengthen or weaken its impact? As mentioned earlier, it does indeed strengthen the impact of the storytelling in Amistad. The choice to fabricate a fictional character or to exclude other characters while keeping other characters in despite the excluded characters' importance does strengthen the storytelling. These choices allow emphasis to be placed in all the right areas, as well as allowing for the story to be carefully curated to address the concerns of race, freedom, and justice, which all fall upon the theme of the movie Amistad.